Good afternoon. Unconditional love 16. Moving along. The Cathar disdain of the cross. Well, the Cathars disdained quite a lot of the church, including the cross. They disdained baptism. How can a newborn child, can't even spell sin, be guilty of sin? How can you have an effect before the cause? Something must happen, as I said before. There has to be a crime before you can be punished. So it doesn't even make sense to be punished before you've committed a crime. And certainly a newborn babe is blameless, crimeless. So they didn't agree with it being saddled with sin. The Holy Communion, the sacrament of communion, of course, well, that's where you partake of the body and blood of Christ. Well, that's easily explained. The Cathars were vegetarians, and they weren't into eating meat of any kind, be it a deity or otherwise, and so on. But they had this disdain of the cross. For a very simple reason, actually. I mean, if that pistol over there happened to blow out the brains of your father, you'd hardly worship it or hold it in reverence. If that dagger over there was the one that plunged into your mother's heart, you'd hardly hold that in reverence. So they could not quite understand why a cross, which apparently crucified Christ, and in such pain, why should one hold that in reverence? Quite the opposite. It's to be not just disdained but abhorred. And in fact, in the early Christian years, the first few hundred years, there wasn't a crucifix to be found. I mean, the crucifix was the most horrendous of Roman punishments. An interesting point. The thing is, with the Romans, when they conquered Gaul, which is France or Germany or any place or anywhere, they allowed the population to carry on with their own courts, their own punishments, rewards. The Romans what they wouldn't tolerate was treason to Rome. And if you committed treason, and treason alone, then you were crucified. So, according to the Romans, the very fact that Christ was crucified meant, in Roman eyes, that he committed treason. Now one can argue as to what that treason was, but you were only crucified if you committed treason, and otherwise the Romans gave you to the secular authorities of that particular country or that nation, and they dealt with you. But if it was treason against the empire or whatever, then it was crucifixion. Of course, with the Jews, they had only one God, and they refused to recognize the Roman gods, and of course that was treasonable, so that was fair cause for them to be crucified for that respect. But the crucifix, in fact, is a pagan symbol. It certainly it predates Christianity by hundreds of years. The first one was in Chaldea. The Babylonians were using it, but that cross was called the Tau cross, and it was one cross piece on top of another, a Tau cross. And the Egyptians used this particular symbol. It was a symbol for Maat, which is a symbol for truth. So various pagan cults, religions, and groups use this cross. Then how it arrived into Christianity was that with Constantine the Great. It must be remembered there was Paul who went out and he travelled hither, thither and yon, and he introduced Christianity to various areas. Now his epistles epistles, there may be another name for letters, his letters to the Corinthians, etc., etc. I don't know if the Corinthians ever replied, but anyway, but it was it was Constantine was the guy who actually, because Christianity was an illegal cult, an illegal sect, as were others, and he brought them in, and he legalized religion. He just said one is entitled to believe whatever you wish to believe through the Edict of Milan. But he was a clever guy, and what he did was he actually started using pagan symbols and dates with Christianity. For instance, the birth of Mithras was the 25th of December, and Mithras or Mithraism was the most popular religion of Roman times. All of the Roman soldiers, it was their favourite religion. And the birthplace of Mithras was the 25th of December. So, clever man that he was, Constantine gave Christ his birth. Everyone has to be born at some point. So he decided to give him Mithras' birth time. That is the 25th of December, and that's how we celebrate Christ's birthday today. Same again with the cross. He introduced the cross, a pagan symbol, which was around at the time, and he introduced that as a symbol for Christianity. And at the same time, or sometime later, they lowered the cross piece from the top, bringing it down, and we have our Christian cross as we have it today. But even then, the cross wasn't depicted for probably the best 300-400 years, and then we had a lamb at the foot of the cross, which meant the lamb was the icon for Jesus. And later, I think about 486 or something like that, it was the first known representation of Christ being strung up or nailed on the cross. And from that point onwards, with the Renaissance, we have all the paintings of the crucifixion. So the Cathars disdained the cross because, as they said, why worship the very thing that destroyed or killed the thing that you loved? And crucifixion was a very, very painful. It went on for days, and that's why they used to pay the Roman soldiers to break their legs so they couldn't raise up, take a breath and come down. With broken legs, they just suffocated. Within an hour or so, or a couple of hours, they would have died, rather than hanging on there for 3 or 4 days in pain. It's easy to say what the Cathars didn't like, and they certainly didn't like the cross, but did they have any symbols of their own? Well, unfortunately, there's very little of the Cathars left. Most of what we do have is written by the church, recollections of the Crusade, the Albigensian Crusade, the files of the Inquisition, and that's where we get most of our information. There is information coming from, we call it outer guidance, and this is information coming from other entities, but that's not everyone's cup of tea. But there's certainly one symbol that the Cathars had, and it was their mandala, and it is this. You'll see here on the outside there are 12 Tau crosses. The crosses with the arm, and in the centre there's a Gaelic cross or Greek cross with the equal arms. As you can notice that once again. The colours are mine. So this well, it's a mandala, and the Cathars use this as people use mandalas as a aid to meditation, because the Cathars were Buddhist in that respect, a number of respects. The fact that they were vegetarian, their love of nature, their love of respect of animals, and their meditative practices. So it's sad to say there's very little, but the whole point of Catharism is the fact that it's a philosophy. It's too high and remote, really, pure Catharism or Gnosticism to be made into a religion. And it's into perfecting oneself. And how does one know when one has perfected oneself? Well, it's very easy. It's the degree that we believe, live and practice unconditional love. Very, very difficult. Easy to say, very, very difficult, because we're conditioned by so many things. If you do this, yes, you're on my side. If you do that, you're against me. So much of our life is conditional. But this was the ultimate thing for them as far as perfecting their lives, and they tried to transfact this perfection by at the end of their lives by becoming perfecti, and long fasts, celibacy, vegetarianism, and things like that. This was their idea at that time. So this very, very deep philosophical point of view is very, very hard to put into some ritualistic symbol such as a cross, because this is secret knowledge of the heart. This is the heart and soul of Gnostic Catharism, secret knowledge of the heart. And it's there for those who do wish to seek it out. On that note, I shall say adieu for now.